gentlemen, a warm welcome to you here at COP27 at the GEF-GCF Pavilion, where we will be talking about very interesting topic about catalyzing climate action with nature-positive cities. You all might have heard about nature positive, and we will go into a positive discussion, looking at what we can do and interact, scale up action. We have a wonderful 2 sets of panels and wonderful speakers, so let's listen very carefully to what they have to say. Today we are facing so many crises. I don't want to list them, I don't want to get you more depressed, but we have also a range and host of solutions looking at what cities can do using nature, supporting nature, and making sure that we can protect our vulnerable communities, build resilience at the local level, but also use nature for climate change mitigation, reducing emissions, carbon sinks, and so on. You will hear some wonderful examples. We'll talk about finance, we'll talk about policy, and everything in between, especially also how multi-level governance can work to effectively scale up climate action together. I'd like to introduce our host, Alok Barno. Alok, please join us up on stage. We have been working with you for so many years now, and it's been an absolute pleasure. Warm welcome to you, and without much ado, I'd like to hand you the floor. And there should be a speaker, a microphone on that side. There we go.
Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah, it's working. Thank you, Marike. It's actually the other way that we have been working with you, and thanks a lot for the partnership and the efforts that we have put in last 6 or 7 years or so. Again, welcome everyone at the GEF-GCF Pavilion on this important event on discussing some interesting ideas, challenges, and opportunities on how we can make cities nature positive and build on or utilize nature-based solutions, in particular in cities, around cities, and also tackle some of the challenges that cities are facing. There are some systemic challenges which are typical urban challenges, but then there are some additional challenges which are more related to scaling up nature or integrating nature in cities. So it's a pleasure to be with you all, with some of the champions who are here in the panel, who are here in the audience. In last 5 years or so, if I can say, that there is a much greater momentum around integrating nature in cities. We have seen acceleration in one way that nature is part of a lot of discussions on urban sustainability. Nature is part of dialogues. Nature is also now part of political ambitions. Now cities are coming forward with nature positive targets, or with at least some targets on nature based solutions. So I remember I was also involved in the Global Center for Adaptation work on the cities action track, which was led by WRI and Canada, was kind of leading it with Mexico. And in that, we mobilized a number of cities who really pledged to integrate nature, and they become like vanguard cities for nature. So we saw some political ambition also emerging. So what we really now need to do is translate all these discussions, dialogues, ambitions into action, converting it into financing, converting it into policies and regulations, building technical capacity where it is really needed in cities, ensuring coherence between national government and local governments. So there is a lot to do, which I think we are at the stage or at a phase where this is very much doable. We have the enabling environment for that. Just to highlight the importance of nature, I don't think I need to say it again, because we are sitting in a group which is already sold why we need to have nature. But just because we are at the COP, it is important to still remember or acknowledge that nature-based solutions or integrating nature is important, and it is it can help us achieve 40% of GHG emission reduction that is needed to halt global warming. So that's an important thing, and given that cities are expanding or sprawling towards nature, more than 400 cities globally are near biological hotspots. So it is really important that cities become one of the champions for nature to really achieve that 40% target. Cities are also important to get to the biodiversity goals that we have. So, the city's role in this space is really emerging very strongly, uh, not only in national and just urban policy discourse, but also in these international multilateral environmental agreements. And on that, I would really like to thank some of the people here, particularly ICLE, WRI, and Madam Sharon, who is really championing this role of cities in these COPs. So that momentum is there, and so I think we need to build on it. I just would like to take a couple of minutes to talk about UrbanShift and how we are focusing on nature in this. So we started our UrbanShift program in GEF-6 phase, which was between 2014 to 2018. We launched the program in 2016, where at that time nature was not highlighted as such as a priority, because the momentum was not there. But we did start with an integrated approach, which enabled in GEF-7 and now in GEF-8 strategy to have nature as one of the top priorities of our strategy. So we are currently working in 50 cities globally in 17 countries in GEF-6 and GEF-7 phase, and I'm happy to let you know more than 70% of cities have nature in their planning or in their investment or in their solutions. In GEF-8 strategy, we have made nature as a distinct entry point, and we are expecting that all the new cities that we will have in our new phase, everyone will have nature as their priority. So we are delighted. We will be working with you all on different elements of policy, financing, planning, replication. We have some core financial institutions also sitting with us, national and international institutions. I would just close by saying that on nature, we have a lot of knowledge now. Of course, then this needs to be translated at local and implementation level. There are solutions, models like Spawn Cities or various other models. What is really needed is that yes, we have the prototypes, we have the ideas, we really need to replicate. And that's where I think city-to-city learning, these global platforms that we are supporting will play a very important role, and city networks and city-based organizations like ICLE, WRI, C40, and Global Covenant of Mayors or UCLG has a very important role to play. And we at the GEF will look forward to working with you as we expand our program to GEF-8. So with that, again, I welcome you all, and I look forward to the discussions. Back to you, Maraika.
Thank you so much, Alok. And again, as the coordinator of the Sustainable Cities program of the GEF, we really want to extend our appreciation of working with you and your team, and of scaling things up. This is where we are at. So I wanted to quickly introduce to you our agenda. UrbanShift is the framing of this session. This is, as Alok mentioned, this is a GEF-funded huge project, which is a combination of a global platform and national child projects. And I do believe my dear colleague next to me will be sharing a little bit more of a highlights of some of the news that we can share on this front. We have two sessions today. I'll be moderating the first panel looking at urban nature-based solutions, and a wonderful lineup there. And then we have also Gifty from C40 will be leading our second panel looking at nature-based solutions for climate action in cities and scaling up the financing perspective as well. Let's see. We've got some beautiful pictures of our speakers, so appreciation there. I do believe Martina is joining us, so join us on stage, Martina. Welcome, a warm welcome to Running from Session to Session. So Martina will give our keynote at the moment. So a slight change in program. We'll hand the floor to you, Martina, and then I'll hand over to Roger. Are you comfortable with that one? This is the instruction I received. Maybe if you can use the mic right there. Over to you for the keynote, Martina. It should be on.
Working? Is it on? Oh yes, it is. Thank you very much, and sorry for joining slightly late. I'm stepping in for Susan, as you have seen on the agenda, but I was just opposite opening another event. So apologies, but I'm really, really happy to be here. For those of you who don't know me, I'm now heading the Climate and Clean Air Coalition Secretariat, convened by UNEP, but I used to head the cities work, and I've been deeply, deeply involved in the UrbanShift, so I'm very happy to be back with my friends from before. So with that, good morning, excellencies, colleagues, and friends. We think of cities as having carved space out of nature. And cities are using up to 2% plus of land, but of course their impact on the environment spread much wider. Current consumption and production patterns and demographies of urbanization mean that the impact on surrounding bioregions and near and distant ecosystems is important. We look at about 75% of resource use of GHG emissions, and also the air pollution is very concentrated in cities, as we look at these 99% of global population not breathing air that meets WHO guidelines. But cities, obviously, and you all know that, they are also at the front lines, dealing daily with the impacts of climate change, from the sea rise levels, rising sea levels, threatening our coastal cities. By 2050, storm surges will affect an estimated 800 million people in coastal cities, looking at the millions of city residents that could face water scarcity, and also the city residents facing extreme heat. But cities have a long tradition of reinventing themselves and concentrating the innovation capacity, and we have seen tremendous leadership of local leaders. So cities really hold the key, and this is why I'm so excited to be here today as well, and to talk to you about this topic, which is so relevant for a COP that emphasizes solutions. As our cities grow and transform, we have a chance to build human habitats that are less ecologically extractive, more ecologically restorative, less carbon intensive, more climate friendly, less socially divisive, and more socially inclusive, and more economically responsible. And right now, what we need is we need to use this ingenuity and industriousness we showed to build our cities in the first place to rethink how they work. And we need to use urban planning to a much, much greater level of integration of services, of the different agendas, and also the solutions. And that means we also need to bring nature back into cities. That must be part of that. And if we want to conserve nature with a view to safeguarding the many benefits that nature confers to us, whether we live in cities or elsewhere, then we need to start bringing nature really back into the cities. We need to ensure that the built urban environment is conducive to the settlement and survival of species, others, and our own. And there's a historic UNEA resolution that was passed at UNEA 5, nature-based solutions for supporting sustainable development, and that really recognized the role of nature-based solutions, and it gave us the first universally agreed definition of what nature-based solutions are. And that means parks and green roofs and street trees to cool cities naturally instead of using power-hungry air conditioning. I was just talking to the topic on the other side, air conditioning. And this means green, blue, and hybrid infrastructure that lets nature do its job, boosted through urban and wider infrastructure planning, building codes, and standards. And as an example, the urban trees in tens of the world's megacities do generate 482 million per year in health cost savings by reducing pollution. So I think this is if you don't do it for the nature itself, this is a really compelling argument as well. Now, urban and peri-urban agriculture can help us to increase food security and bring back biodiversity as well, if we plan that right. So we're seeing such approaches do bear fruit across the globe. There's tons of examples out there. And the GEF really has recognized the role of cities in meeting global environmental challenges and is helping local governments to put nature at the forefront of their climate efforts through an integrated program that we're now looking at with UrbanShift led by UNEP. And as we just heard also from Maluk, UrbanShift cities are demonstrating mindset shifts, reimagining how cities can build with nature in mind. And there are really plenty of examples from Freetown, the Tree Town, to the work in Kigali, Rwanda, where the wetland restoration efforts are really amazing as well. But much more needs to be done. And the first is we need to significantly grow investments to protect and restore nature in cities. In 2020, nature-based solutions received only 0.3 of overall spending of urban infrastructure. We have to turn that around. To unleash investments, cities can put into place policies that incorporate nature-based solutions in urban planning, and I dare say also wider infrastructure planning, and to test sustainable business models that do de-risk these investments. And I think that's really critical. The second is we need stronger partnerships between cities, national governments, the private sector, and academia to ensure increased urban nature investments. And here UrbanShift really provides a good example of multi-level collaboration with the investment of 147 million in 23 cities in 9 countries, and leveraging co-financing at 2.1 billion. So that really helped drive things further. And UNEP will definitely continue advocating for cities and regions to engage in international processes and be included in financing discussions. And this is the reason why we're gathering here today. And maybe just to say, we held at the last UN Environment Assembly already a Cities and Regions Summit to this very topic. And now we're coming together here at the Climate COP. And next month we will support the Summit for Subnational Government and Cities at the Biodiversity COP in Montreal. Together with the FAO, we're also facilitating their engagement of subnational governments in the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration, where ICLE and is already driving forward the cities and regions with nature very much. So I think with that I would like to stop. Cities have a tradition of reinventing themselves, and if we spur this innovation power now by investing in nature-based solutions, I think we do stand a chance to slow climate change and biodiversity loss, to provide clean water and clean air, to stay cool in rising temperatures, and to turn some of the concrete jungles also into urban forests and provide healthy, equitable and sustainable life to everybody who lives in them. So the future cities in which we would like to live. So I look forward to hearing the inspiring examples that we will have here from the other distinguished panelists. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Martina. Wonderful keynote and giving us food for what needs to be done, and it's up to us to actually do this as well. Without much ado, I'm going to hand over to Roger van den Berg, Acting Global Director of the WRI Ross Center for Sustainable Cities. And Roger, you are going to give us a nice snapshot on what have we already achieved in the UrbanShift project, an exciting set of news. So the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and I'm very happy to see so many familiar faces here in the audience and here in the panel. So what I'm going to do, I take 5 minutes because I'm launching the annual report. So if you think there's slightly too much text on his slides, that is because it's the annual report. And I want you to see it because it took a lot of efforts, and I hope you download it because it doesn't only say what we have done, but it also provides very good case studies and insights on nature, on circularity, and on the kind of the content of the program. So this really marks the program's first year of action under GEF-7, and we highlight the progress made by a cohort of 23 cities in 9 countries. And I'm not going to mention them, you can see them on the screen. The urban challenge, and I see so many people that know so much about cities, so I'm not going to mention all these data points. I better don't do that, but we all know that you can't resolve the climate crisis without putting cities at the center. And this is why it's so important that we have this program and that we create continuity in the program, bringing GEF-6, GEF-7, GEF-8 together in a kind of a North Star program where cities can learn from each other. The mission of the program is really to transform cities for people and planet through an integrated approach. And a lot of implementation and a lot of kind of effects of interventions can only be realized if you think in an integrated way. If you connect the dots between departments, if you think transport and land use planning at the same time, if you think adaptation, water, nature, and often these expertises sit in different departments, as we all know. So that integrated approach through integrated urban development planning is key to this program. So I've been 25 years doing maps of the world, and I've never seen this map. So that's new in the annual report. I'm very happy to see this, looking at the GEF-6 cities, which were 28, GEF-7 cities 23. There's one city that overlaps, so we're talking 50 cities in 17 countries with a very generous grant funding support of almost 150 million US dollars from the GEF, and co-financing, leveraging 1.9 billion, almost $2 billion. Like that? Like a rock star. Good. So what's the strategy? So we have a dual strategy, which means that we work in each of these 23 cities on projects with our implementing partners, ADB, World Bank, UNEP, UNDP. Those are the projects. The second part of this strategy is the global platform, the capacity building platform that we implement together with UNEP, with ICLE, C40, and WRI. And we have KPIs, the three key KPIs that you see over there: to mitigate 170 million tons of CO2, to manage and restore more than 1 million hectares of land, very important for nature, and to improve the lives of 40 million people. So we're going to measure programs along those lines. Gender and inclusion at the center, and not only something to talk about, really embedded in the projects. And for us, a way to measure that is really to look at how everybody can use the urban dividend and can benefit from the urban dividend by having access to services that cities have on offer. Access to public transportation, access to housing, access to public space, and access to nature, for example. So our big bets, where we think that we can really shift the needle, and those are 8 areas of focus, are integrated urban planning and geospatial analysis, nature-based solutions, as we heard, urban biodiversity, circular economy, climate action, managing urban growth, climate finance, and sustainable neighborhood design. I'm not going to go into the contents of each of these 8 key pillars under the program, but this is kind of the suite of areas and focus areas where we think that we can really, over the next years, can shift the needle in these cities. So a year in review, we had only almost 18 events. So so you see this beautiful metro line of all the events, which included webinars, city academies, urban labs, very practical work sessions with different departments of the cities, with the public, the private sector, discussing on really how to resolve these challenges of integration. And I want to give 2 highlights, 2 recent city academies, an example of the work that we do. The Kigali City Academy in May, bringing over 23 cities together, working on the topics of integrated climate action planning and nature-based solutions, really looking with different partners and with these cities on what are effective ways of planning, what are methodologies, what are case studies, what are the best examples, and how we can learn from each other. So that's what happened May in Kigali. And then very recently in October, after the C40 summit, we had the Buenos Aires City Academy, which focused on urban biodiversity and sustainable neighborhood design, which included representatives from Argentina, Brazil, Costa Rica, Paraguay, Peru, and Mexico. So these are real intense sessions in which we bring these different topics and partners with expertise on these topics together to really advance cities in their methodologies, understanding, and clear tools for implementation. And I think this is very important. The focus is on integrated planning and implementation. Last thing I want to say, and then I'm finished, don't worry Marijke, I'm almost done, on the nature that so the nature piece sits in the bodies, lives in our different organizations in different ways, with ICLE, with C40, with UNEP, so with our partners. So we really want to, and this is an example on how the GEF program, how the UrbanShift program can build on all that expertise in the organizations. Yesterday, together with ICLE, we launched the Aqua Fund for urban water resilience in Africa. That's an example, 3 years in the making, so a rich body of work. Or our Cities for Forest network, which includes 82 cities that are focused on nature-based solutions in and around cities. So that's the basis for us to build and support cities in this challenging but also very exciting pathway on, and I think that's the last thing I want to say, on getting rid of the classic juxtaposition of city, nature, city versus landscape. So bringing these two together. And I think there are urban planners here among us, and we used to call our cities red or gray and the outskirts green. And we already know that that's actually not the way it is. Sometimes and often biodiversity in these cities might be even bigger than on the agricultural outskirts. So getting rid of that complex philosophical juxtaposition between nature and cities is going to be our recipe for moving forward in an exciting way towards nature-based solutions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Roger. Wonderful to hear. And please do read the report. We'll have it online. There we go, a QR code if you wish to scan. And we have some paper. And we have some paper reports as well. And the QR code. Great. So, we are on track with UrbanShift. It's moving forward very nicely, and the focus is very much, I think as Martina said, this mindset shift. I love that. So I'll use that more in the future as well. I would like to just check if our national government colleagues are with us already. We are missing 2 of our national panelists, national governments, but it might be that they're stuck in negotiations, so we'll continue nonetheless. Then I would propose we can show maybe the video of Chef Schouwen, and then we will give the mayor of Chef Schouwen a voice, and then after him, Mayor Dijksma. Let me just get quickly. So these are our 4 panelists. I just wanted to draw your attention. Look at this perfect symmetry we've got up here. Equal ladies and gents, and equal north and south representation. Isn't that wonderful? It's very seldom that we get a panel like that. I like it. Thanks to the UNEP colleagues for organizing this for us as well. So if we can get the video of Chef Schouwen, please, that would be wonderful. This is just a lovely short snapshot of the city. Wonderful.
Thank you.
That's a beautiful video. No.
Thank.
Okay, let's.
Good. No. Thank you. Thank you very much, Marek. And I am very happy to be with you. You said to me no translation, so sorry for my bad English. So I am Mohamed Sfiani, mayor of Chefchaouen since 2009. Chefchaouen, as you see, is an intermediate city in the north of Morocco, and city painted in blue, but committed to the green. So in this item, I think that it's very important that cities can contribute to the implementation to the climate agenda. And we know that more 75% of emissions are produced in cities. But in cities, we don't have sufficient resources to implement this global agenda as climate and SDG, etc. So in my city, for example, we work in the implementation with a participatory approach, with civil society, with private sector, with university, and with multi-level cooperation, because it's very important to work with at the local and regional, national and international level for implementing this agenda. And nature is very important for us. We have vision Chefchaouen 2030. We elaborate this vision with people, and nature is in the center. And as we see, we are surrounded by two parks, one national park and one regional park. And one park, geopark, will be recognized by the UNESCO. But in the city, we have many projects. We have action plan for naturalizing the city with parks, with trees, with alimentation. We are recognized as intangible heritage of UNESCO. What we say, Mediterranean diet is the culture of alimentation. So and to have short circuit of consumption and production in the city. So we are working that, but we say always that we can't do that alone. So the networks are very important for us as to share best practice, to share best ideas, to work together and to know what happens in the other cities, in other continents, and the other sides of cities is very important. So is why ICLE, for example, we are working with ICLE and cities with nature. Cities with nature is a network and the platform we can share the best practice in nature in cities. So we are very interested for this important project, UrbanShift. I see that Morocco is one of the countries that we are working in water, and we have problems in water. We have stress, hydric stress now in Morocco, in north of Africa, in Africa, and for drinking water and for agriculture. So I think that that it's very important to work together and to have the support of international organization, financial organization, because we know I talked about the localization of climate agenda, but in finance there are no localization. Only 10% of finance go to cities, to local, and we need more and more, and we need technical assistance, because we don't have in intermediate cities, in the cities in the world, especially in the global south, the expertise, the physical expertise. So these programs, this type of program, this type of networks with ICLE, with GCOM, with UCLG, C40, every network, we can work together and have to achieve our goals and to achieve our action plan to implement the global agenda. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mayor Sifiani. It's a pleasure. Thank you for speaking in English as well. It's much appreciated. Your city looks lovely, and I think you've really captured the essence of what needs to be done locally. And I think let's stress the urgency. I would like to move to Mayor Sharon Dijksma, as you play a special role, not only as the Mayor of Utrecht, but also as our ICLE and our constituency, our local government and municipal associations constituency, as the special envoy for COP27 ministerial. So could you maybe share a bit your vision, not only on Utrecht and what you're doing there in terms of nature-based solutions, but also what actions can we take to the global level, and maybe if you could reference to the Surge initiative.
Yes, obviously I could. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you can understand me and hear me well, because I find it myself very hard to hear the panel. So, but I have a clear voice, I hope. Let's hope I also have a clear voice on the international stage, because that is really necessary. I see that there is a lot of discussion on the importance of bringing in cities much more in the international dialogue, but there is much to do about cities, but not so much with cities. So it's so good that we have our own voice now here in this panel, because a lot of people debate about us, but never with us. And that has to change, actually, because it is really nice to see that the theme of today is urban shift. And I think with my colleague here from Morocco, who is perfectly right, that yes, there is on the ground actually a urban shift. Many more cities are aware and conscious of the fact that change needs to be delivered, that there needs to be a progressive climate agenda which has to be holistic, which has to not only attach on energy transition, but also on, for instance, sustainable mobility, on housing, on the way that we actually consume, but also, for instance, this has to be a just agenda, because many people now worldwide who are the most vulnerable are not having the privilege from the transition that is necessary. So they fear it instead of that they embrace it, and that is really necessary. So I think that yes, there is an urban shift on the ground. Yes, there is an urban shift in the debate, but there is not an urban shift at the table 1 block away from here, where all the heads of delegations and their helpers are actually negotiating at this moment on our future. We're not there. We're here, it's really cozy and I like it, in informal settings, discussing on our relevance, but we do not have a voice at that table. And my goal as a special envoy, together with my colleague here, who does the same for the Global South, for Africa, is to bring out that voice and actually to try to convince all of us that we need to be not here on this stage, but on another stage, actually, 1 building from here. And that we actually need access to money and to expertise, to our own international fundings, and that we need to cooperate with the national governments to be in their NDCs, to really deliver a contribution, because we obviously have to, and we do. Now for my city, and that is something I would like to say in conclusion, Utrecht is the 4th largest city in the Netherlands, about 400,000 inhabitants. For some of you it looks not so much, but really, believe me, in the Netherlands it's quite huge. And we have been announced to be the most bikers-friendly city worldwide, not by ourselves actually, but by an independent survey. And if you would come and take a look in my city, you would see it's actually true. Because yes, we have the world's largest bikers garage just beneath the central station, where 12,000 plots for bikes and I think approximately also 2,000 for sharing bikes are there. Yes, we have the infrastructure in our city in which cars are guests instead, and the bikers and the pedestrians actually rule the road, so to say. And yes, we try now to even bring off houses from gas, which in some European countries still is a transition energy source, because they even have to get rid of the coals, right? So we are going on a fast track forward, being one of those 100 cities that the European Commission have been announced as to be climate neutral by 2030. But I have to say we're not able to make it unless we get some support. We need support from our national government, and we actually also need support from the international family. And because I'm so much aware of this, being a previous minister for the environment, having been negotiating on the Paris Agreement on behalf of the EU delegation at that time, I know that national governments, yes, they set the framework. Yes, they are extremely important. But the work on the ground is done mainly in the cities. So as long as that is not recognized, not only by words, but also by actual action and access to power, then we have a huge problem. So I do not want to spoil your afternoon, but I think that is what is at stake. And we need you all to advocate for this, because otherwise we're not going to break through UN bureaucracy to get things done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor. So we've heard a call from our local government representatives, from the mayors who know, and they represent most mayors, most governors around the world. There is a severe lack of finance flowing to the local level, and our second panel will look into this finance topic in a bit more detail. But thank you for sharing your thoughts and your perspectives. I think maybe one question, and just to reflect and take it a little bit more out strategically. Yes, we are at a climate COP. This is a legal negotiation, and we cannot so easily influence that. We can only hammer away at this message. The local level is where action is being implemented. That's where you can move fast, efficiently, but support is needed. If we take this now, take the conversation again, considering we're in the UN decade of ecosystem restoration, we have the climate emergency, we have the biodiversity crisis, we have wars going on, which take attention away also from the need for action. Where do you see all of this going? And I would like to open this question to just one of you to answer. Do you see that we have an optimistic opportunity still to save this world?
I think that there always needs to be optimism, and obviously I'm a very optimistic person. But what you also see is that many people use war as an excuse to not move forward on the energy transition. And I think that it is a pity, because actually, if you see where we are standing now, we need to be more independent from the Russian gas, for instance. That is an absolute necessity, at least for Europe. So I do not understand why the European community and the European countries are not much more involved in boosting the energy transition way forward and accelerating, actually. So yes, if you look at it from a more intellectual or analyst point of view, you would say that these multi-crises where we are in at this moment actually ask for one thing: bold steps, be bold, and not turn back. And I think that at the same time, I'm not sure what you hear about the negotiations at the moment, but I have been listening around a little bit. I cannot tell my sources, obviously. But yeah, I mean, there's not much going on there, right? So we need to really boost a lot of pressure on all the negotiating teams. Please let us get away from here with a good result. It would help if cities would become much more important, but because when you listen to the mayors, I saw our colleague from Katowice, for instance, he's facing a lot of trouble with his national government because they're at more or less at a freeze position, and he wants to make the step forward. So I would say that the UN could use cities also as like a turning key to go into the action. And the search initiative, for instance, since you asked me, Marijke, to tell something about it, could be such a turning key. To align on 5 lines where we need to cooperate as cities and move forward towards the same kind of goals on the transition.
Thank you very much, Mayor. For those of you not familiar with the Surge initiative, take a look at, just Google it, UN Habitat Surge, and you will find it. Sign up, join. This is a space where we're going to make local action moving as a collaborative partnership space to push this agenda, but to move very much forward on implementation. That is certainly one of the most innovative activities that we're going to launch on the 17th officially here at the COP for City Action. We've heard such wonderful things. The call to action will just go on, and we will speak harder and louder. I very briefly want to share with you also what ICLEI does in this space. So we have 2 centers that give technical assistance and policy assistance, and we're engaged through that also in the UrbanShift project. So my own center, the ICLEI's Carbon Climate Center, and we have the city's Biodiversity Center based in Cape Town as well. We collaborate especially also on this nature-based piece and how to link that energy and biodiversity, optimizing approaches, also looking at water and all the shortages and inefficiencies we have in our systems, where we give advice to local and regional governments around the world. And we really like our partnership with WRI, UNEP, C40, and the GEF funding. This really enables us all to move forward in a very strong way, leveraging synergies between the partnerships that we have. And indeed, C40 is also a strong partner in the LGMA constituency. Again, for those of you not familiar with the LGMA constituency, this is where we bring the city and region networks together here at the COP to have the strong voice of subnational governments as well. I would like to thank my panelists and all my speakers. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. A warm hand. And as they step down, I would like to invite Gifty from C40 to come up and chair the next session. Thank you.
Please have a seat. Then we'll take a photo at the end. Yeah, please have a seat.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we're just going to do a group photograph before some of our speakers leave, and then we'll move to our next session. Maybe Gifty, join us up here as well. Lynn, maybe you join us as well. Maurizio, come up on stage. There we go. Lynn, would you like to join us as well? There we have a wonderful group photo of all our speakers. Tall gentleman at the back. Thank you so much. And over to Gifty for our session on finance.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? Yes. Hi, everybody. My name is Gifty Nari. I'm the Deputy Regional Director for Africa at C40. and I'm based in Addis Ababa, and I'm really honored to be joining this distinguished panel on this important topic on nature-based solutions. And also, what a vibrant discussion. Thank you, Murni, for inviting me to take over the second panel. I just wanted to start by mentioning that I had the privilege of attending the UrbanShift Academy in Kigali. Roger mentioned it. It was. Oh, sorry. Okay. Is this better? Yes. Okay. So I've been talking to myself all this time. So I've had the privilege of attending the the City Academy in Kigali. And really, this was such a wonderful opportunity to really understand more about this project. Actually, I just want to start off, for those of you who don't know C4D, C4D is one of the implementing partners of the UrbanShift Academy. C4D is a network of close to 100 mayors working together to confront the issue of the climate change. We work with mega cities, which are cities of more than 3 million populations in various sectors. So I just wanted to introduce you to the panel here. And I have one question for each panelist. First, I'll do the introduction. Mauricio Rodas, sitting to my left, is the former mayor of Quito, Ecuador, visiting scholar of the University of Pennsylvania. And we also have Lynn O'Grady, Deputy Head of Sustainable Infrastructure Group, European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, EBRD. Thank you and welcome for joining us for this wonderful panel. And I have one question for both of you. I'll begin with Mauricio. Can you reflect on key levers to accelerate transition to nature-positive cities? You still can't hear me. Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay. Do I have to start over?
No, that's fine. But yeah,
you can hear me. Okay. The question is, can you reflect on key levers to accelerate transition to nature-positive cities? And if you can also focus on multi-level governance and finance. First question, over to you, Mauricio.
Thank you so much. It's great to be part of this conversation. So we just heard about some of the risks that cities around the world are facing because of climate change. 4.4 billion people in the world live in cities, and 1.4 billion of them are facing serious climate risks. So that's the magnitude of the challenge. And we can keep mentioning figures and data that will only highlight how urgent it is for cities to undertake responsible action to tackle climate change, since it is in cities where more than 70% of CO2 emissions are taking place. So without an effective role from cities, it will be impossible for countries to meet their NDCs and to meet the Paris Agreement. Now, we have also heard about the importance of investing in nature in cities. It brings a lot of very key benefits for cities and urban dwellers. Investing in nature in cities can accelerate climate action and can restore biodiversity. It can build resilience to soil erosion. It can increase air and water quality. It can reduce extreme heat. It can increase life expectancy and overall quality of life in cities. So there's a number of very important benefits that investing in cities brings. I'm sorry. So what can cities do to foster greater investments in nature? I think, first of all, cities can generate more evidence on these kinds of benefits to highlight how important it is to invest in nature. They can incorporate nature-based solutions as a cross-cutting issue for urban planning. Very important. Cities can foster cross-departmental coordination to implement nature-based solutions in a more effective way. They can scale nature-based solutions initiatives. They can implement sustainable business models to de-risk investments in nature in cities. Cities can partner with development financial institutions to implement new project preparation facilities to foster capabilities in cities to develop technically sound, bankable projects. And cities can also explore innovative mechanisms to make investing in nature more attractive, like, for example, natural capital accounting system. Natural capital accounting systems have been implemented in some countries in the world with mixed results. I would say most of them positive, but they have been very little explored at the urban level. I think there's a great potential for further exploring the impact of natural capital accounting systems in cities as a way to foster investments in nature-based solutions. Now, good news is that we have several examples of cities that are doing great work on nature at the urban level. Many cities that are becoming champions on this field. And the idea is for these mayors to keep encouraging other fellow mayors to follow suit around the world. And I would like to comment on an initiative that is being cooked as we speak, which is the statement on financing in nature for sustainable cities and regions that will be delivered next Thursday during the ministerial meeting. A group of 16 cities from around the world, along with many partners, UNEP, the GEF, the University of Pennsylvania, the World Economic Forum, C40, eClay, UN Habitat, among others, will be presenting this statement to advocate for greater investments in nature-based solutions in cities through fostering the design and implementation of new direct financial facilities from development financial institutions for investments in nature at the urban level. That's very important. We know, and we have always argued, that cities are confronting an international financial system that was designed for countries, not for cities, and it is urgent to make it more cities friendly. And that's something that DFIs can play a pivotal role in achieving by developing these new kind of direct financial facilities for cities. This statement will also be advocating for deeper partnerships with different levels of governments to increase funding for nature in cities, and also, very importantly, to partner with international organizations, DFIs, city networks, the academia and civil society to develop benchmark exercises to identify best practices when it comes to PPP's regulatory frameworks. We all know that for cities, it is very difficult to attract private sector investments in general, and particularly for nature. And a part of that is because of the high complexity of PPP's regulatory frameworks. They are very difficult to implement in many countries of the world. How can we improve that? Well, I think that these international players can develop meaningful benchmarking exercises to identify best practices that can be replicated to improve regulatory frameworks for PPPs, particularly on nature-based solutions in cities. These are some of the ideas that will be gathered and delivered on Thursday during the ministerial meeting. And echoing what the mayor of Utrecht just said, I think this is the kind of spaces that cities should be using to raise their voices, to make them being heard, and to foster for greater financial resources to tackle climate change and to build resilience in cities around the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mauricio. I wish we had more time to hear more. What I heard is the importance of action, research, benefits. What are the benefits of climate action, the partnerships with financial institutions, and of course, the sharing of experiences between cities. I would like to ask the same question to you, Lynn. Can you reflect on key levers to accelerate transition to nature-positive cities, and again, focus on finance?
Thank you, and thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak at this panel. It's my pleasure.
Maybe I can just sort of take a step back a little bit and tell you who I am, the organisation I represent. So I am from the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, and we are a regional bank. We work on three continents. We cover, importantly, investments in both the public and the private sector. I myself have worked at EBRD in infrastructure for many, many years. And in 2016, together with my colleague Nigel Jollins from our climate team, we put together EBRD Green Cities. So move the clock forward 6 years, and it's been a real success story. And I think this is very relevant to talking about nature-based solutions. So far within that program, we have invested in 76 projects. It's very much about delivery in a total investment amount of 1.9 billion and covering nearly 60 cities across 25 countries. And what we have established, which has taken me completely by surprise, is we have a network. We have a network of small cities. Some of our cities are Zenica in Bosnia and Herzegovina, which has a population of slightly over 50,000, to Cairo mega cities. So we are a network as well. And if I can just sort of say one thing, that I hope that next time I'm speaking at an event like this, when they are talking about impactful city networks, they will talk about EBRD Green Cities. And the network is impactful because it links planning with investment. The two go hand in hand. So that's sort of my introduction, but I think it's very relevant to what I'm going to say. And what I'm going to say is very much, there has been consensus across this panel, and I think many of my comments will be duplicating what others have said, including the mayor. So, I mean, I think the first driver for nature-based solutions is changing the mindset of how you look at the issue. So what you need to do is identify the environmental challenges and then look at what the solutions are. So it's a shift, because typically when we're identifying infrastructure projects, we want electric buses, we want a new wastewater treatment plant. So it's getting that change in the mindset. A second important factor, and it has been raised by other panelists, but is project preparation. Nature-based solution projects, we are working them, of course, at EBRD at the city level. They are complex. They take time and effort to support. I think one of the reasons that is, it's because they are unique. They're not cookie cutter. You need time and effort, and that actually on the role of MDBs, EBRD, this is where we have a role to play, because we have the resources to support cities in project preparation and also in delivery. A third thing that is really important, it's come up, but all the same, it's knowledge sharing. Again, we are looking at innovative solutions. Cities need to learn from one another. I see with nature-based solutions, when you're reading documents, there's a lot of case studies that I read. I get a lot of benefit out of them. We ourselves, within the Green City Network, we do knowledge sharing events on many issues, but I think where we have the most interest and traction, it's on nature-based solutions. And finally, because I'm EBRD and I'm a bank, I need to talk about bankability. So with nature-based solutions projects, bankability can be an issue. There isn't a clear cash flow for many of these investments. So the solutions to this are, first of all, integrating them into grey infrastructure projects. So just to give you an example, in Amman, where EBRD is working. We have energy efficiency in buildings project, retrofitting buildings. We do that in many cities in our regions. So put rooftop gardens on those buildings. It's an easy win incorporating a nature-based response. The second way, and it was picked up by the Mayor of Morocco, and it's such an important point when you're in the city space, it's fiscal decentralization. It's empowering cities to make their own choices, to make their own decisions. I mean, I couldn't emphasize that more. It's something that we at EBRD spend a lot of time promoting and supporting our cities and encouraging national governments to make that step. But, I mean, you have to accept the fact that this bankability can be difficult. And here again, this is where MDBs like EBRD step in. So we can mobilize concessional finance, we can mobilize grants. We're doing that at the moment for an orbital forest project in the Western Balkans. And just sitting in this pavilion here, we have concessional financing from the Green Climate Fund, and they are supporting our city projects, including nature-based solutions. We're not there yet with GEF, but that is to come. I am absolutely... Exactly. And I think the last point, it's been said, but I will say it again. I think these projects, you have to identify, I would call them the co-benefits, the benefits of green space, the benefits in terms of people's well-being and health. Articulating that is really important. So that's my summary. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lynn. That was really eye-opening in regards to what EBRD is doing, as well as how you're articulating the complex nature of this intervention, but at the same time being hopeful in terms of what can be done with partners, etc. I would like to hand over the mic to Marike. Thank you again for Q&A and closing.
Thank you so much. And talking about the really... feedback is not so great today. There we go. Alok, would you like to make a comment or an intervention? And then we'd like to go to the floor, if we may. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, I mean, just before closing, I just wanted to, respond to your question on optimism that you asked. And I would say that there is a great sense of optimism, at least in GEF. We had GEF-6, we had GEF-7, and we have GEF-8. So that means the importance of cities is recognized in climate financing and biodiversity financing mechanisms like the GEF. So there is an optimism there to work directly with cities. Of course, we have the limitation of working through national governments because it's an international fund. But through our focus on cities and in the implementation arrangement, having national government and local government together is really, making sure that cities are implementing solutions. And, we are seeing real solutions on ground now. Like, you go to our project in Kigali, for example, Rogier mentioned in the project, the GEF fund and World Bank money fund is used to restore a wetland around a city. We would not talk about restoring a wetland in cities 5 years back, but this is happening. In Freetown, planting millions of trees. You go to Costa Rica, the San Jose metropolitan area, they're developing a urban biodiversity corridor. You go to Asuncion, where, in Paraguay, the GEF-6 pilot project is. The project is mobilizing youth and women around, restoring some of the important biodiversities, developing bike tracks and things like that. So, there is a lot happening. Of course, we need to scale it up much more because cities, we are in an urbanization age. So 70% people are there. That means almost 70% of the world is in cities. So there needs to be a scale, but just wanted to say that there is action. There is commitment from funds like us. That you heard from EBRD. I have been talking to many other development financial institutions. We are trying to influence or work with EBRD, World Bank, ADB, and IDB to make sure that the externalities, the factors that we are not able to capture in nature-based solutions, we address that through some of the concessional financing initially, and then develop innovative business models like one that Lynn mentioned. There are many other models that exist, and of course it has to be revenue, but if a nature-based solution or a nature-based intervention can deliver high quality water, if it can deliver reduction in heat, that's also an important benefit. It's just that that needs to be valued, and what governments think that they have the revenues from taxes and other places, so they just have to think in that perspective that the taxes or any public money, if it is invested there, it is invested in public goods that way, and that valuation, there are many models now happening. I mean, natural capital accounting is something that Mauricio highlighted. We have a project on doing economic valuation of nature-based infrastructure with IISD using the SAVI model. So there are a lot of efforts going on, and I'm sure we are all charged up. I look forward to that statement that is coming on Thursday, because that is definitely going to be one of the landmarks, I would say, or a moment of transition when we talk about investing in nature. So yeah, thanks.
Is this working? There we go. Thank you very much, Alok. That's very helpful. I think the financing flows and the increase of flow of finance to cities is something, it's not enough, it's a starting point, but it's wonderful to see that we're scaling up. And we'll work with all of you intensively, the whole UrbanShift partnership, to also look at decentralization of financing, to scale up local action. That's where the power is, that's where we can do amazing things. I have heard so much wonderful stuff. I'm not going to recap anything, but I would like to maybe end on the optimistic and positive note. So we're concluding this session on catalyzing climate action with nature-positive cities. I like that word, nature-positive. Let's use that more effectively, but also bring in that win-win between nature and climate. There's a lot that we can do that brings benefits also in terms of quality of life. We heard about health. We heard about all these different co-benefits. So imagine your city with nature. What would that look like? The cities we love have nature in them. That is where you get your quality of life. So let's build that stronger and make that a space where we can also enjoy with our family and friends in the urban context. Have that mind shift, linked to UrbanShift, and I wish you all positive energy. We are all working extremely hard to make this shift, and every piece of work that all of you are engaged in is really critical. So keep it up, keep up it, and keep up your strength, and let's work from the climate COP to the biodiversity COP, because this is not the final COP. The biodiversity COP will also have extremely important decisions to be made. So let's together be bold, be brave. Thank you very much.